Is everything working? Let's see. Okay. Okay, well, if anyone's watching, hello. I'm just going to assume that everything's working okay. I must admit I'm a little bit nervous here because this isn't my usual sort of piece of technology that I'm working with. My first time doing the streaming thing, so I'm a little bit unsure if everything's working okay. So if anybody is listening or watching, if you could give them some indication in the chat window that you can hear me and that everything's working okay, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'm just going to waffle on and yeah, and then I'm hoping you can hear me. So if anybody could confirm, it'd be awesome. Anyway, for anyone who's watching, welcome. Yeah, this is cool. Hey guys. Yeah, so this is my first attempt at streaming. I've got a few topics that I'm going to go through, but if anyone's got any questions or anything particular you want me to talk about, just stick it in the comments and I'll take a look at that. Okay, so I guess a good place to sort of start with is that, I mean, first of all, this channel seems to be doing much better than I ever thought it would do. I think coming close to about 3,500 subscribers now. When I started this thing, I thought if I got 100 subscribers by the end of the first year, I would be super happy. And now we're sort of heading towards, oh, cheers, dude. So now that I'm heading towards close to 4,000 subscribers, I thought it might be worth me trying to do some stuff with the channel rather than just me doing my usual thing of putting videos up every week or so. I'd had some people reaching out to me through the comments, asking, is there a way that they can get in touch with me? And that's one thing with YouTube, although it's good for me putting content out and, people can comment on it. Then if there's ever a need for a private conversation, like if someone's got something that's bothering them or someone wants to sort of, just reach out, there's not really that functionality for a kind of a private conversation. So what I've done is I've set up an email account just for this channel, which now if you go to the onto the YouTube channel and onto the About page, then there's a link there. There's a contact email address there. So now if anybody ever does want to contact me for, to talk about one of my experiences or to ask about, something that's going on with them, then there's a way you can get in touch with me now. Because I didn't just want to stick my private email up there, obviously that would be a bad idea. So now I've got a dedicated email channel. So if anyone wants to contact me, you can do. The next thing I thought about doing is setting up a subreddit for this channel. Now, I'm a big sort of fan of Reddit. I think it's a really good sort of forum for getting information. I've got to say the Ayahuasca subreddit, I think is really a really good community. So if you have, I post there quite regularly. And I do put a link in the channel banner to my Reddit username. So again, if anyone wants to contact me via Reddit, you can do. But I thought it might be worth having a subreddit just for this channel whereby I post sort of stuff like what I'm working on videos on, and then if anyone has any particular ideas for videos that they would like me to comment on, then that could go there and we could have a discussion about it. So once I've got that set up, that will also be in the channel banner. I've got a question here. Could you talk a bit about what you think the DMT space is? I.e., is it a gateway to another dimension, or is it just a gateway to our own subconscious? Yeah, great question. I'm actually just working on a video on this particular thing at the moment. So there's two answers to this question. The first one is what do I actually think it is? And then the second one would be, what do I do with that piece of information? So I'll tackle the second part of that question first. And you could say, is the DMT space, is this a portal to another dimension? Is this aliens reaching out to us? Is this biblical aims? And the quick answer for me is, I honestly don't care. It makes zero difference to me. And although that sounds quite flippant, let me just explain a little bit what I mean. The reason I don't care is because all that is kind of, again, this might sound a bit selfish or flippant or whatever, but so just bear with me. All I mean, I'm a human being. I'm going through a human experience. And what I want to do is make sure this experience is as positive and with as less suffering as possible. Now, with these psychedelics, I've found something that works. It makes me better, I feel. It's helped me work on some of the problems, some things that were bothering me from my past. So if somebody comes to me after I've had all these experiences with ayahuasca and things where I feel like I've met God and things where I've certainly had, experiences that seem like aliens, I've been through all that. I've got benefit from it. If someone comes to me tomorrow and says, actually, science has 100% proved that this is aliens. It's not angels. It's not the universal consciousness. It's aliens or whatever. Then my answer has got to be, cool. Whatever. I don't give a shit. Those experiences that I had, no matter what the explanation, they meant something to me. They improved my personal experience. So that's part two of the answer. So then obviously I do have an opinion on what is going on here. And I do cover this in one of my DMT videos. And this isn't something I kind of dreamed up. This was just kind of what was revealed to me through one of these DMT experiences. And it was something along the lines of that consciousness is just like a constant through the universe. It's older than our species. It's probably older than this planet. It was there before. It's just in the beginning there was consciousness, and it was kind of revealed to me that you could say that consciousness exists in another dimension or whatever. The words get a bit fluffy, but there is some kind of primordial stream of consciousness, and that we are fragments of this that break off to inhabit matter in order to have these kind of experiences that only matter can have. There's things that an experience to being an individual in this flesh that is as incomprehensible to pure consciousness as pure consciousness is to a piece of meat like us. So that's what I think is kind of going on here. I've got zero evidence for any of this. I'm not necessarily going to, jump off cliffs and look to return to the universal consciousness. But that's what was revealed to me, is that this has been here for all time. You come in this door, you go out through that door, it's all good. And from having that belief system, that enabled me to get past a very unhealthy fear of death that I had at one point. When I was in my sort of late 30s, I was having crippling panic attacks and I was having difficulty leaving the house. And these experiences, this is one of the reasons I got into psychedelics, was to try and overcome these kind of things. And yeah, the DMT in particular completely resolved me of my fear of death. I went from on one day being this kind of like a lot of fear. I was just living with a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. And then like within the space of one night, it was just explained to me, like, you don't need to worry about it. You've been here before. Death is just another part of this experience. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I think I've waffled on a bit there. Hopefully that explains a little bit about what I think the DMT space is. I'm more of that. This is a pure form of consciousness, and that through the use of DMT or other psychedelics, we kind of dial into it through some. It becomes a kind of it is a connection to that consciousness. So hopefully that answers the question. Okay, another question. Have you ever tried magic mushrooms? If so, what do you think is the difference in the spiritual experience versus ayahuasca or other psychedelics? Yeah, first of all, the answer is a big yes. I have, although I've not talked about it at all on my channel, and that's just because I've just not gotten around to it. I've done magic mushrooms quite a few times, and I think they're awesome. I think it's an incredibly positive experience. Also, yeah, what's the relationship between how do I see the difference between mushrooms and something like ayahuasca? So I think that the first thing is that I think these psychedelics are all tools within the toolbox. I don't think they're all the same. I don't think they're all equal. There's definitely some overlaps between them. but I think they are more suited to certain purposes. Now, something like ayahuasca is, I would say, I mean, first of all, it's difficult. It's you're puking, you're shitting, you've got all this body load going on. You should only really, I think, with ayahuasca, it's if you're looking to heal, look to ayahuasca. You've got some deep trauma you want to resolve, go to ayahuasca. If you're looking for other things like just to explore your consciousness, or even just to have fun. All right, and I think that's something I think is got to be on the table with these things. These things enhance the human experience, and part of that is just having an awesome time. And that doesn't particularly, you can do ayahuasca and not have an awesome time, but it's very good for this healing. Mushrooms, I think, are much better for just pure exploration of your unconsciousness without all these kind of worries about body load, or without necessarily facing these demons from your past. I find them to be much more, let me try and find the right, much more imaginative. Like, I come away from mushrooms thinking just like, wow, that was just fucking awesome. There's just a lot more. I like listening to different kinds of music much more on mushrooms. I think they're very good for exploring like music and different albums, stuff I wouldn't have listened to normally, and I can just hear, I'm like, wow, this really comes alive through mushrooms. And also, like I say, I think there's been a lot of times when I've done mushrooms and I've just had a super fun time. Like me and my wife, we just have like awesome fun on mushrooms, and it just makes you feel like a human being again. You can just to be with the people that you love and listen to awesome music. That's an experience that I really love with mushrooms. So yes, I think mushrooms are awesome. I think they are. I use them differently to how I do something like ayahuasca. I guess the kind of like the scale is more like, if you want your mind just blown, DMT. You've got something you want to heal from. You've got traumas to work on, ayahuasca. You just want to, have just either an introspective sort of experience of your unconsciousness, or explore, or just have an awesome time, mushrooms. And then and I obviously could go in through things like LSD and all the other sort of stuff, but for me, those are probably like the main three: DMT, mushrooms, ayahuasca. So I hope that answers your question. It's so important that knowledge is given to people, especially to those who are unsure about starting a journey plan. I'm interested to know what you thought about other plant dietas. Yeah. So plant dietas are, and this, just to give a bit of background here, so that people get a little bit confused. So there's two kinds of, when you use the word diet or dieta, particularly in conjunction with ayahuasca, then there is a diet that you do prior to drinking ayahuasca, but this is this kind of very bland, very boring sort of cut all these food groups out and stuff, and you're just eating like rice and a bit of white meat and beans and stuff like that. And so that's like the diet. That's different to a dieta. A dieta is when you typically done in Peru in sort of isolation. You're sort of on your own in like a hut in the jungle, and you're just drinking a particular plant. So it's just plants like Pinon Blanco, or I can't remember all the other names. So it's tobacco, even Toei is a sort of a diet. There's all these different plants that you diet, and you sit there and you're drinking these kind of almost like a smoothie of plant material, and you're doing that for it can be anything from a week up to months and months. I've never done one, and I'm looking at doing my first one next year, which comes into another question that Daniel asked further down about any future retreats to Peru for yourself. I'll be going to Arcana this year. I personally feel like I made the right choice, and you definitely aided me in making that decision. She goes, oh, well, that's awesome, dude. I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to do when I made this channel. I was looking to provide the kind of information to people that I would want to find when I was making these choices. So when I was first looking to go on retreat somewhere, I was I just wanted someone to say like which one is nice, which one, everyone will always say that they had amazing life-changing experiences, but I wanted to sort of create information that was separate from the actual psychedelic experience. So that's what I was hoping to do when I was starting making the review videos. And awesome, I'm glad it helped me. That's exactly what I wanted to do, just put good information out there so that people could see, oh, this is what the bedroom looks like. This is what the food's like. This is what the maloka looks like. So cool. I'm glad it helped you out. But just coming back to the dieta thing. So yeah, I'm planning on doing a dieta next year. I've not got the dates fixed yet. But I'm probably going to be doing it in Pucallpa in Peru at a place called Ayahuasca Spirit. Now, Ayahuasca Spirit, I've been to a few of their retreats here in Europe. You might have seen I made a couple of videos about some of my time there. And also I've got, I've worked with the shaman there who's called Wheeler Rodriguez, Noriega Rodriguez. I forget. Wheeler, I'm sorry if I messed your name up, but Wheeler, everyone just calls him Wheeler. And he's got a center of his own in Pucallpa, Peru. And I've never been to Pucallpa. I've never done a plant diet. And so I'm looking on going there next year. And I'm probably going to be there for at least 2 weeks, I think. And maybe a bit longer, but we'll see how that goes. Now, what I was planning on doing, I have had a few people ask me, which retreats are you going on? People who want to come on the same one. And so what I will be doing is once I finalize those dates and that place, I'll be posting it somehow on the channel or maybe in a future one of these live streams. But I think it's cool if people want to come and be on the same retreat that I'm on. And, I'm totally up for meeting people and stuff like that. Of course, there's got to be the sort of the knowledge that I'm not running these retreats. So it's not like if you come on the same retreat as me, you're not getting any kind of preferential treatment. I'm just a customer there, just like you guys are. So, that's one thing with these retreats. I don't get sort of anything for free here. I'm not doing these reviews in exchange for freebies. So everything I go, I'm just a normal customer. I'm paying for just like you. So, by all means, I'll put the dates out there. And if anybody wants to come on the same days that I'm going, yeah, it'd be awesome to sort of meet some of my audience. I have actually done this a couple of times. When I was at my retreat in the Sacred Valley in May, there was a couple of guys who reached out from my channel and said, hey, I'm good. It was just totally by chance. We worked out we were going to be on the same retreat. So when we got there, it was nice. I already knew a few names and a few faces, and that was cool. And then one of my last retreats in Spain, the same thing. There was a guy who wanted to sort of meet up. So yeah, I'm totally up for that. And I'll put the dates out there as soon as I've got them. And then if you guys want to, come to those retreats, that would be awesome. Let's see, what's the next question? Chloe says, I've done DMT 4 times, but I'm scared about mushrooms. I think DMT is fast, but the thought of training for hours on mushrooms scares me a bit. But I do want to do mushrooms. Should I do it? Honestly, Chloe, I think, yeah. I mean, okay, so it's a good point. So I think if you've done DMT and you are comfortable in that space, I think you'll be fine with mushrooms. And when you talk about the hours with mushrooms, it's probably a lot less than what you think it is. So from the come up period through to the sort of the peak, through to when you sort of, you first get that thought in your head of like, oh, I think I'm coming back to normal now. For me, typically you're looking like three hours, maybe a little bit longer. Typically by 4 hours, you're feeling the residuals of it, but yeah, you're kind of coming back to normal. I'd say the peak of the experience is really sort of like 2 to 3 hours, which I don't think is a hugely long time. But I would say, yeah, if you're comfortable in the in the DMT space, I think you'll be all right in the mushroom space. One thing is with the difference between DMT and mushrooms, DMT is so fast and so intense and just so awesome that you don't really have a chance to fuck up on it. I've not really seen anyone like have a really bad time on DMT. It's just jaw-droppingly awesome. Now, mushrooms can be a bit trickier because you are in that space for a longer time. I've certainly had experiences on mushrooms where it's kind of turned on me a bit and it's gone a bit freaky. And this is a video I'm actually going to working on at the moment. I'm making a video all about sort of bad trips. and why I think they happen and why I don't necessarily think they're a bad thing, to be honest. So, I mean, and that is kind of my viewpoint. I with all these kind of substances, I think that the experience only happens based on you. It's what you bring with you. I don't feel like these substances are some sort of external entity that's invading you. Like, oh, I was fine, but then I had this thing and it gave me a bad trip. It's like, no, if you're having a bad trip, I think it's what's in here. It's your own baggage. And if you want to resolve that, then you need to work through that baggage. And sometimes the only way to work through it is a bad trip. So that's something I'm going to cover in a longer video, probably in the next couple of weeks. But I would say, Chloe, yeah, you'd probably be fine with the mushrooms. And yeah, some good advice here from Snefru. Get a trip sitter, someone to sit with you. But I think mushrooms are a really positive experience and a really good teacher. Okay, let's see what else we got. I have an opportunity to go to a local shaman in my country for an ayahuasca ceremony for free. Would it be more worthwhile to go to Arcana instead, even though it's expensive? Well, that would depend on the local shaman and what you're talking about. So, I mean, an ayahuasca ceremony for free is nothing to be sneezed at. And certainly I would be of the opinion, like, it's worth checking out. As long as it's something that you're planning on doing anyway. Don't go just because it's free. Go because you feel the call to work with ayahuasca. If you feel you need that, that healing that you're only going to get from ayahuasca, that's the reason to go. Don't go just because someone's offering you a freebie. If you're comfortable with that shaman, if that's a shaman that you can go and check out and talk to beforehand, and you would then feel comfortable with him, sure, go for it. Why would you not? Is it more worthwhile to go to Arcana instead, even though it's expensive? I clearly have a high opinion of Arcana. I don't think it's hugely expensive for what it is. When you look at something like Arcana, where you've got, it's 7 days accommodation, 7 days food, 7 days of therapy, 4 ayahuasca ceremonies, which depending which center you go to, sometimes it's 3 in one San Pedro. They all throw all these things like Cambo Sweat Lodge. They've pretty much got like people there as like living therapists who you can just go and talk to, and just, they will get you through your problems. So I don't think, then they have these excursions. If you're in the jungle, they take you to all these, these wildlife reserves, or, crocodile hunting, or take you to these villages. If you're in the Sacred Valley, they take you to all these, Pisac, you can go to all these Inca ruins. So I don't actually think it's particularly expensive for what it is. Granted, I will admit that it's still a lot of money. But I think there's value in that money. If you can afford to go to somewhere like Arcana, and you feel the thing is with ayahuasca, it's an investment in you. I would say, if you want to do that work and you have that money and you want to do that healing and you're going to get value out of it, then sure, something like Arcana is awesome. I mean, there's not, I don't know, everyone who goes is just saying this place is amazing. So given your question, if go and work with a local shaman, I would probably go and check that out. Sure, if you've got that option. And I would probably then also go and do the Arcana thing, because it's just awesome. Okay, my experience with Dieta Noyoreo really opened the medicine in a deeper way. Too much to say in these few characters, but good luck. Yeah, cheers, man. I'm looking forward to it. I've heard a lot of good things about people who've done plant diets, and it was something that Wheeler, who I do consider as like kind of like my shaman, I've worked with him the most, and I've had the deepest connections with him. And particularly one of my last retreats with him, when I was working on these kind of issues around my mother's suicide. And one of the things that came up there was, which I kind of knew anyway, was I feel a lot of like emotional blockage. It's almost like I wish I could just scream and shout and cry and sob over some of these things, but I don't. I'm just choked up on it. I'm like, too blocked, too emotionally blocked on these things. So that was one of the things that Wheeler recommended, was that, yeah, I need to do a plant diet to kind of like open myself up more to these emotions. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's something, it's, I'm looking to improve myself. I'm looking to experience something new. I do really like being in Peru. I love the jungle. It's just something about there just calls to me. And also, it's a chance to do a chance to go to somewhere new in Pucallpa, chance to go to a new center, and see what's happening with these plant diets. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's see. 5-MeO DMT is also an interesting trip. Less life-changing. No. No. I think probably 5-MeO DMT is possibly, it's a very powerful experience. When I did it myself, I was under the impression that this was kind of somehow going to be less powerful than some of the other things like ayahuasca stuff. I would say, and certainly what I've heard from other people when I've talked about this. In fact, the guy in the interview I did with the Qualia guys, we do a section where we talk about 5-MeO DMT, and from a scientific perspective, it's actually the strongest. It's kind of people report much more powerful experiences on 5-MeO than even with sort of ayahuasca. Not necessarily the same kind of like healing experiences, although I'm not an expert. I've only done 5-MeO once, but I think from what I've heard from other people and what I've seen, from being on retreats where people have been doing 5-MeO, I think it can be just as life-changing. But I think that the thing with 5-MeO, which I think comes up in the videos where I talk about this practitioner of 5-MeO called Octavio, it doesn't have the same kind of structure around it as the other things do, as something like ayahuasca does. Ayahuasca, you go on a retreat and you have this, just basically an entire infrastructure around you of shamans, facilitators, set and setting, stuff to help you work on your problems and get through it. And 5-MeO DMT is relatively new. It's not got this kind of long tradition of being used by all these cultures. So people are still kind of working that out. And although it's like jaw-droppingly awesome, I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily go to 5-MeO DMT to heal in the same way that I go to ayahuasca. It's incredible. I mean, I'll put it that way. It's absolutely fucking incredible. If you get the opportunity to try it, I strongly recommend it. And I think I would need to explore it more before I came back and said like what the potential is here for life, either healing or life-changing. But as far as just a psychedelic experience, it's bonkers. It's absolutely fucking nuts. So yeah, check it out if you get the chance. I'm about to have my first DMT experience in a few days. Any advice? Marshall, just go for it, dude. It's, as I just said with the 5-MeO DMT, it's incredible. The quote that gets thrown out a lot from Terence McKenna is this like death by astonishment. It's so true. I've had so many DMT experiences and I've, done it with like for the first time with so many people. Like I've got people just come and try this thing. And like every time you just see people going like, what the fuck just happened? That was amazing. So yeah, mate, I would say, Marshall, just go for it. Just go for it and just see what's on the other side. And good luck, mate. It's, it can take a while first before, like I remember when I first did DMT and we were like, the first few times we didn't have this kind of breakthrough experience. We're like, was that it? Was that what people are talking about? Was that? And even then it's so psychedelic. It's so trippy. But when you get to that point where you have that breakthrough experience and you are just like you have this one-to-one reality replacement, man, it's fucking bananas. It's so cool. So yeah, go for it, Marshall. And good luck with it, mate. Are you ever planning on trying Iboga or Ibogaine? That's from John. Yeah, At the moment, no, John. And there's a reason for that. Well, first of all, let me say I am curious. I would like to try it, but part of my problem, my genetics get in the way. So basically, I have epilepsy. And one of the things that triggers my epilepsy, I mean, I'm fine. All the psychedelics, absolutely fine. There's no problem there. Because the main thing that sets me off, that would make me have a seizure, is lack of sleep. So Iboga is notorious for basically you have it and then you're awake for about 72 hours. And that would just, I'd be having a seizure and that would just mess it up. So I think probably for me, Iboga's off the table, which is a shame. I'd like to, I'm curious about that experience. But it's it would just be staying awake for that long. I think it's just a high risk situation for me, unfortunately. Chloe, thanks for your advice. I had one bad DMT shot, the others were beautiful. All right. I mean, good. Well, I mean, sorry to hear that you had a bad trip. Again, I would say, going back to what I said earlier, maybe try and explore what it was about that trip that you didn't like. And but I'll say otherwise, good looking at. I think it was yourself, Chloe, said you were looking at trying mushrooms early. So, Melissa, hi hi, Melissa. Let's see what else we got. 2G. Yeah, so some good advice here from Sneferu around starting doses, and I do think that's a thing with when you're trying mushrooms or any psychedelic, even when you're trying like DMT, just work your way up. Particularly with DMT, because it's so short lasting, you can start very small and just work your way up and then find where you're comfortable with. Because, and similar with mushrooms. Now, when I do mushrooms, I have to do ridiculous amounts. I'm very unsensitive to mushrooms, which is annoying because it means I have to do quite a lot. So I have to work through quite a big range before I found the kind of the sweet spot I like. But it's good advice from Sneferu. Just start with a sitter, have someone with you, and just work your way up until you find a comfortable spot. And see. So John's excited for 5-MeO. Yeah, mate, it's a like I say, it's a good experience. I think you mentioned you were going to Arcana, so I know that's one of the things that they offer there. Oh yeah, so there's a good thing here. John's mentioned about weight loss, and that's one of the things that I've gotten from all these psychedelics. I'm actually, as I'm here today, I'm like 12 kilos lighter than what I was a year ago, which is huge for me. I'd spent a lot of time and energy trying to lose weight, and just by having these kind of psychedelic experiences, and I think this is one of the things that you do get from this. Is one of the kind of like the bits of magic that happen in them. A lot of stuff I just don't want anymore. Like I don't drink as much. I still enjoy a beer and stuff, but I don't have it in the same quantities like it used to be. I was like drinking like every night, having a lot of drinks. I don't pig out on things like ice cream as much as I used to. And so without really having to do anything, the kind of weight's just dropped off me. So it's definitely one benefit you get from these psychedelics. So Chloe's commenting, I find being vegan also makes you more compassionate as well as great health benefits. And yeah, I think this is one thing that kind of crops up. It's like from psychedelics, like should you be vegetarian or should you be vegan? And my thing moment, I'm not. I do eat meat at the moment, and there's a bit of mental gymnastics that I do in order to do that, because I fully acknowledge that. Yeah, it would probably, if I could flick a switch in my brain and become vegetarian, I definitely would do. But unfortunately, I can't. So I kind of, I carry on eating meat, and I'm not particularly hugely guilty over that. But I do recognize that I think, it would be better if I. It would certainly be better, environmentally. I don't like the whole factory farming stuff. But particularly in the country where I live, which is in sort of in Switzerland and Europe, the factory farm is just not a thing here. So I can sort of reconcile that a little bit. But anyway, I don't want to diverse too much from the psychedelic topic. In the age of ayahuasca tourism, so a question here from Drende, in the age of ayahuasca tourism, how to find the right shaman place? Mate. Well, that's one of the reasons I do this channel, is to try and put out my own experiences, and then you can sort of make have an opinion on them. But there's so many of them these days. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to get around every single center and do a review of them. So how do you find the right one? I think as with anything on the internet, you can get a degree of indication of how good something is just by the quantity and the quality of reviews. There are certain centers which just have a good reputation. So the one I particularly vouch for, Arcana has a really strong reputation. Before it was called Arcana, it was called Pulse Tours. It was like one of the #1 rated centers. Everyone just loved the place. And when I went, that mirrored my own experience. So I do think reviews on places like AirAdvisor or even TripAdvisor, I think it was Ayamundo, I do think you can put some stock in these. And if there is a center which is just getting like good reviews all across the board, I mean, you could say, well, maybe some of these are fake, sure. But the big centers, see, they have so many reviews, and you just, if you go onto places like Reddit and ask the question, you'll just get so many responses that I don't think these can be fake. So Arcana is certainly good. Temple of the Way of Light has a solid reputation. Soltara has a solid reputation. Dreamglade has a very solid reputation. He's also a lot more budget friendly. So there's plenty out there, and I think if you just, what I would say is that when you're looking for a center, just find the one that seems to click with you. So one of the reasons I went with Arcana is because they did all these tours, all these excursions, like, going piranha fishing or going swimming with pink dolphins or going to monkey sanctuaries. And since I was going to Peru, I wanted to get as much out of the trip as possible. I didn't just want to sit there on my own in isolation in the jungle in a hut. So that's what appealed to me. So that's why I went with Arcana. Now, somebody else might want the more, a more contemplative experience. You might want somewhere where you're more in isolation. You might want to be with, places where they sort of are sort of much more sort of like super traditional or more almost where it's like bordering on a religious experience. Maybe what you're looking for is something you're looking for a much more luxury experience. Maybe it's you want somewhere where they do swimming pools and air conditioning, or and you're prepared to pay that bit extra. So just have in mind what it is you want from a retreat, and then sort of try and find one that matches that. That's kind of what I did. From Preston, have enjoyed your videos for about 6 months. Cheers, dude. Do you have a favorite YouTube you learned the most from? Not as in a psychedelic YouTuber. I don't particularly watch any other psychedelic channels. Don't get me wrong, I've seen a few over time. I've watched a few like Psych Substances videos, and I've seen a couple of, I can't remember, if people post trip reports on stuff like Reddit, I normally go and check them out. But in terms of actually doing YouTube, the stuff that I watch on YouTube tends to be more film reviews. I'm a bit of a film buff. I love movies. It was something I studied at college. So yeah, that's probably what I watch most on YouTube is film reviews. I do. There's some sort of stuff that gets put on YouTube where I just think this is just like amazingly well-made content. I like stuff like iDubbbz, just stuff where it's like very well-made and very slick. A couple of the sort of YouTube channels which are about sort of how to make better videos and stuff. I'm interested in that. I mean, I'd hope that if you've been watching my channel since I started doing, like, my first videos are kind of crappy now. The lighting is bad, the camera was shit. The sound quality was bad, and I'm kind of progressing by watching some of these YouTube channels about how to make better videos and sort of editing techniques. So I'm getting better as I go along, and I'm getting to more the place I want to be. But yeah, I don't do a huge amount of watching sort of psychedelic YouTube stuff. I find the best reviews come from non-influencers on YouTube. Random people with very few followers reporting experiences as generally as possible. This one woman really resonated. Sarah Masters. All right, yeah, mate. I might take a look. So Welk, I'm hoping I pronounced that Welk. My thoughts on Iboga. Yeah, we just actually covered this a couple of minutes earlier. Welk, I think it sounds. I mean, first of all, the results from Iboga seem to speak for themselves in terms of people curing addiction with it. There seems to be nothing like Iboga for just snapping those connections to addiction. And that's an amazing thing. That's, super powerful, particularly from, I'm from the UK originally. And, in places like Scotland, there are huge like heroin epidemics. I think there's something similar going on with opioids in America. So I think something like a Iboga that just seems to be able to like turn that off. Yeah, that's fucking amazing. Me personally, I won't be doing it because of some medical reasons that I mentioned earlier. So that's my thoughts on it. But I do think it's a very interesting compound. This channel too, it's very genuine. Oh, cheers, John. My experiences are very real without sounding like you're trying to get clicks. Yeah, so that's something that's important to me, John. So with this channel, like I mentioned earlier about how I am, when I go on these retreats, I'm a paying customer. And similarly with this channel, I don't think this is ever going to become my day job. It's a hobby. And to be honest, I want it to be a hobby. I like doing this. It's a creative outlet for me. So, and I don't know what that would look like. I mean, first of all, I'm not under any illusion that this would become a full-time paying job. And secondly, the job that I do have, I enjoy a lot, and I get paid pretty well for it as well. So I'm not looking to replace my work, my 9-to-5 work, with this YouTube channel. And that's very liberating because it means I don't feel this compulsion to get clicks. I don't feel this need to pander to certain audiences, to say the things I think they want me to say in order to get more clicks or get more subscribers. I'm like I say, like I said earlier, it's doing much better than I thought it would with me just being me. So I'm going to carry on being me. I'm going to carry on not pandering to any particular audiences. I think my audience, which is, you guys you're here because you like what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep talking shit in the way in the way I talk it and presenting it in the way I do, and it's all I can do. I'm not going to try and be. If I was trying to be fake about it, then I think it would show through very quickly, and people would lose interest in it. So, yeah, I'm definitely not trying to get clicks, and it's like I say, it's a hobby, and it's working just fine for me. So I'm glad that people are enjoying it the way it is, because that's how it's going to be. Okay. John's influence is the one that sell products via their social media posts, like product placements. Yeah. So I think what John's talking about here is, I think there are people now who are just almost like professional, social media personalities. They kind of like people who go to and promote certain places or promote certain brands, and that's how they make a living. And I think, I think when you see someone like that, it's just, I'll put it this way: it doesn't interest me. I do not want to do that. I would much rather be able to go on a retreat and if it sucks, I'm going to say it sucks, and without any obligation to provide a positive review of someone because they gave me a free retreat. I don't want to do that. I don't want to, it's kind of like sell out in that way. I was actually talking to someone, someone I know who runs a website, like a psychedelic website, like quite a big one. And she was sort of like, they were coming from the other side. They do these kind of like paid promotional activities, and she was saying that it's actually like a little bit limiting, because you do get these kind of freebies and you do have to promote these places, and then you can't necessarily point out what you didn't like about them. That's not where I want to be. I want to make sure that if I go somewhere, I can say exactly what is on my mind. And I think you've seen that in if for anyone who's watching my reviews, you've seen there's been a few where I've just not been particularly kind to the place, and that's not me trying to be a dick with them. That's just my honest experience. And even the places I do like Arcana, when I was in like the Sacred Valley, I was like, well, first of all, I didn't like the Sweat Lodge thing at all. And also I thought, the rooms could have had like, something in the rooms. Although these are only like kind of small things, I'm not afraid to say, hey, guys, this could be a little bit better. You could tweak this, just because I want to, kiss the ass of the retreat. I'm going to say whatever I want to say. So again, I'm glad that it's resonating with you guys. Oh, cheers, John. The comments like this and this kind of interaction that I'm having with you guys is, this is just fucking super awesome. Like, I would have never dreamed that I could make something that people would find useful and then be able to sort of interact with them in this way. So this is kind of cool. This kind of stream thing's kind of going cool, actually. I think I'll do this more regularly. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it would be a good bit of feedback from you guys. How often would be too often? I'm thinking maybe like once a month or something, and we sort of do something like this. I don't know. Let me know in the sort of comments. From Drende, can you speak about your relationship with your maestro shaman? Yeah. So I've worked with quite a few shaman, and it's a funny thing working with shaman. You very quickly build up a loyalty to them because you're just having this incredibly powerful experience, and this is the guy who's mediating this experience. So I remember when I first went to the jungle and I sat with Wheeler, and I was like, this is my shaman. Like, this is the guy, nobody else. This is the guy. And when I came back from the jungle, I came to my wife and said, because I went on my own that first time. So I came back home and I was like, this is fucking incredible. You need to see this place. You've got to see this guy. This is bananas. So like within a couple of weeks, we immediately booked a return trip back to Peru again to see Wheeler. And then in the space between that, it was like a year almost in between, Wheeler left that center and they got in a new shaman, and I was gutted. I was like, really sulking. I was like, I wanted to see Wheeler. I'm such a control freak that I was really like huffing and puffing. So we got there and there was this new shaman called Christian, and I was like, it's not going to be as good as Wheeler. And Christian was just amazing. Christian was awesome. And I was like, and it kind of opened my eyes to sort of getting over attached to these shamans and sort of cutting yourself off from other experiences because you become sort of blindly loyal to this guy. Now, that said, clearly I've talked about Wheeler a lot, and I've worked with Wheeler a few times since then. So Wheeler is my kind of like go-to guy. But I just wanted to make the point that it's good to experience medicine from different shamans. Like, ceremonies can be very different. Just to hear all these different Icaros, different shaman have different Icaros. The Icaros from Wheeler compared to the Icaros from Christian, compared to the Icaros from Michelle, who I work with in the Sacred Valley. So different, so awesome. I'm so glad I've got the chance to hear them all. So yeah, don't necessarily limit yourself to one particular shaman. That said, again, if you are got some kind of deep healing to do and it's working with one shaman, then sure, you don't necessarily rock the boat. But if you're in a situation where you can experience, lots of different medicine from lots of different shaman, go for it. So what's my relationship with Wheeler? He's my go-to guy. It's kind of difficult to talk to him. He doesn't speak any English. I don't speak any Spanish. So it's always going through a translator. But I feel I've got a very strong connection to the guy. After sort of ceremonies, I go up, give the guy a big hug. It's as with any of these kind of like psychedelic experiences, it's a very difficult thing to put into words. It's a very emotional relationship. But yeah, I just think that with all these shaman, the ones I work with, these guys just sit there and just sing their fucking hearts out for you. When we're talking earlier about how expensive ayahuasca retreats were, you get to sit there and listen to like these guys just sing in the most amazing things for like 3 or 4 hours solid. It's incredible. And they do this like 4 nights a week. If you think, how much would you pay to go and watch like a band? How much, pick your favorite band and like, how much would you pay to go and watch them? I would probably pay like, somewhere between like, $50, $100 to go and watch my favorite bands. And they don't play for 4 hours. And these shamans, they go out for like 4 hours at a time, and they do this 4 times a week. And so I think you factor that in when you talk about retreats being expensive. You're getting an amazing thing here. Anyway, I've digressed a bit there. My experience with my shaman, with Wheeler, I love the guy. I want to do everything possible to help him and his medicine and his business get out there, which is one of the reasons why when I have a positive experience at one of these retreats, then I make sure I communicate it, because I want other people to know that these are the guys to go to, and that this is, certainly it's not the only place you can go to, but in my opinion, you can go there, and these guys are, have my stamp of approval for whatever that's worth. Okay. So John's asking, being selfish here, any final tips before I leave for Peru next week? Anything you wished you knew prior to your first experiences? Honestly, John, no. I think it's better to, I would say the only piece of advice I would give is go in with as little expectation as possible. And I know that everyone says that it's a bit of a cliche, but just surrender to the experience. And I don't mean the psychedelic experience. I mean the entire Peru experience. Just leave all your kind of expectations of what this thing is going to be, how it's going to unfold, what the medicine is going to be like, what the people on this retreat are going to be like. Just go into it as like a newborn as possible, and just allow yourself to be surprised. Just allow that novelty just to hit you. I mean, it's going to hit you anyway. When you get there and you see like just the Amazon River, man, I have never seen a river as big as a fucking Amazon. It's huge. And when you get there and you're in a boat in the middle of this river, and it's like a mile that way and a mile that way, and it's like the bank is just so far away and the water is just so deep and running so fast, and there's just jungle all around you, and you're like, your phone's not working anymore, and you're just completely out there, and you're just hearing all these jungle noises, and you just get that feeling of like, holy shit, I am so far from home here. And it's awesome. It's awesome, mate. I'm jealous that I cannot experience that again for the first time. So just go for it, and enjoy, mate. I hope you have an awesome time, and let me know. So humans commenting, I think a stream once a month would be good. Yeah, I think that's good, mate. I'm enjoying this experience. So we'll maybe set one up for another month. See what else have I got here. What is the best way to prepare or work up to something like DMT or Aya? I do my own journey work with meditation and pot, but never anything else. It's a tough question, mate. I mean, some people would say there was a couple of questions earlier about like, maybe like mushrooms is a good place to start, and then work your way up to DMT or ayahuasca. I don't know, because the thing is, each one of these things are so, or can be so sort of incredible, that I don't necessarily know there's a right place and a wrong place to jump in. Again, I wouldn't necessarily go for ayahuasca unless you're looking to heal from something. That's, I keep saying that, but it's, if you're just looking to explore or, dip your toe into the psychedelic waters, then I think there's less, there's ways of doing it. Like, I mean, ayahuasca, you get all this puking, all this stuff. Don't put yourself through that unless you feel you need to. Mushrooms are a good way of exploring. So maybe that would be an answer to your question, is start with a small dose of mushrooms and work your way up, and then see how deep you want to go. But I don't necessarily think it's wrong to start with ayahuasca or start with DMT or start with mushrooms. I think, just see what your calling is. I personally, I actually think, which is a bit counterintuitive, I think DMT is actually quite a good starting place, because it's so short lasting that even if you decide you don't like it, at the worst, it's 15 minutes of your life. That's the worst case situation, 15 minutes. Something like mushrooms can last for hours, same with ayahuasca. So I would personally possibly say like DMT is a good place to start. Because it's a lot less investment. Does anyone else does anyone else having an awakening suffer with insomnia? The past year and a half, my sleeping is totally messed up. I did, Chloe. I used to have real trouble sleeping, which only at night though. Like during the day, I could sleep whenever I wanted to. But yeah, I went through a period where I was just finding it incredibly difficult. I think it was around the sort of same time as when I was having sort of anxiety attacks. One thing I did at that time was I just used to do a lot of physical exercise. Well, I would sort of run like 5-10 kilometers a day just to sort of try and tire myself out. But I do find it's kind of, I don't know whether it's because of the psychedelics or because of the plant medicines that I do find it's not a problem these days. I think it's possibly one of those things where everyone goes through periods of insomnia. Maybe you want to look at, is it connected to your work or to your social life? Don't know. But yeah, I've had it, and yeah, insomnia sucks. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, so it seems like insomnia is like quite a big thing. So what I was planning on just closing this stream at 5 my time. So I've got 5 minutes left. So what I'll just do for the last 5 minutes, I'll just tell you a little bit about some of the other stuff I've got coming up, and you can see if this is something that you guys would find interesting. So a couple of weeks ago, I did the interview with the guy from the Quayle Institute, which I was, again, it's like super awesome to be able to get to talk to guys like this. It's like, this is kind of thing that you dream of. It's like when you first see Terence McKenna, you dream of, God, I wish I could have talked to this guy. Obviously, he's gone now, so I'm never going to get the opportunity. But I'm looking to do that, to reach out to other sort of people in the community and try and have these sort of discussions with them. And hopefully by doing that, I'll actually get better at doing the discussions. I appreciate my interview style is not the best at the moment, but just to give you some heads up on what's coming. So I'm going to be talking to a guy, a neuroscientist called Dr. James Cook. Again, you can find, he's got a YouTube channel. He posts videos like roughly about once a week, all about sort of like the neuroscience behind psychedelics and behind consciousness. Really interesting guy. So I'm going to be having a conversation with him sometime in November. I'm also going to be talking to a person called Lorna Lee, who runs a website called Entheo Nation. So again, she does the same kind of thing as me, sort of like in that she reviews retreats and talks about psychedelic experiences. And she comes at it from a similar angle as myself, as like a kind of like a no bullshit kind of angle. So that might be an interesting conversation. I'm also looking to talk to somebody who actually sort of built and runs one of these retreats. Someone who, I'm fascinated a little bit by these guys who do these things a bit like Arcana, who, a guy who goes into the jungle and builds all this infrastructure and that sort of makes a community out there in jungle. I thought that might be an interesting conversation. So that's what's coming up. In terms of the other videos I've got in the charts, I mentioned that I'm working on one regarding sort of, the dark side of trips and what I think those are. I've got a couple more retreat reviews I'm working on. So, I don't know how many of these I've done so far, but I've got 2 more places that I've been to that I've not talked about yet. And then once I've done those 2, that will be all of my retreat experiences so far. And then I guess it will be sort of roll over into next year when I start doing more retreats. So I've got 2 more of those coming. I've had quite a few questions come to me about the 2 Arcana sites, the Arcana Jungle versus the Arcana Sacred Valley. And although I talked about the jungle and the Sacred Valley in the previous video, I was just talking about the regions in general rather than specific centers. So I'm probably going to do a video just comparing Arcana Jungle to Arcana Sacred Valley, and sort of give my sort of thoughts there. But I think, as I've covered in previous videos, my sort of heart is definitely in the jungle. I'm going to carry on doing some more trip reports and stuff, and just my general musings on anything that I think is important to the community. So I think I'm going to wrap this up now. So guys, first of all, I just want to say thanks to all you guys for contributing here. I think that this is my, like I say, first time streaming. I was very nervous about doing it. I hope it's been useful for you guys. Thanks for contributing. And thanks for watching my videos. And as I mentioned, there's a few new ways of getting in touch. So if you want to email me directly or contact me through the subreddit once I get that set up, then please do. And otherwise, I will probably be posting another video next week. Going off the sort of comments here, I will do another stream. Yeah, probably do it as like a monthly thing. And I guess, what's a profound way of signing off? I don't know. I've not got anything planned. So thanks, guys. I'll say bye here, and you're all awesome. Cheers, dudes.